No, 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 no. We haven't sent a warship to Iran, all right? A warship. Of course, it's a dangerous device, but more dangerous than the ship is that weapon that can sink it to the bottom of the sea.
Well, those are the statements made by Ali Khamenei, the supreme leader of Iran, assuring us, well, beyond how dangerous a United States aircraft carrier is, if anything is more dangerous, it's the weapon that can sink that aircraft carrier. Hinting that they have that weapon that has that capability. Well, I mean, who knows? Only time will tell. But obviously, the aircraft carrier has many defense systems, besides the fact that it comes with a full fleet. Now, let's not forget what happened to Russia, which, well, was supposed to be one of the strongest navies in the world. And with some small, very cheap drones, I mean cheap compared to what a ship costs, these, which cost around $150,000, have managed to sink huge ships worth hundreds of millions of dollars that seemed unsinkable. The Ukrainians to the Russians? Well, in those cases, they're giants, not aircraft carriers, but we'll see if they're invincible, right? In that sense, look, it's very interesting because aircraft carriers also move in a very interesting way. Look, let's go. First, today we'll see where the aircraft carrier is, or rather, the image that has come up, but the aircraft carrier is not going to be in front of the Persian Gulf. If we look at the aircraft carrier, it's going to be in this area. Let's get closer. It's going to be here. I mean, the aircraft carrier is hardly going to be attacked for going there, at least the aircraft carrier itself. Me? That's Gerald Ford, which is the biggest and most modern one the United States has. It's going to be here at least. If it's attacked directly by Iran, it would have to go through Iraq, through Syria, through Israel, through Lebanon, through Jordan, through Saudi Arabia. In other words, it would have to go through some of these countries. Any attack? There are United States bases here, there are United States bases here, here's Israel, and even over here is the aircraft carrier. From here, the aircraft carrier can attack Iran, but it's very difficult for Iran to attack the aircraft carrier, at least directly. The one that's more exposed is the aircraft carrier they have on this side, and here the risk is definitely higher. No, last time I said it was 800 kilometers from the coast. No, it's close enough to attack, but far enough away that it's almost impossible for them to be attacked. Not impossible, but almost impossible. So, that's the message he gives today to Liga Mine, obviously, and his followers there applaud him, right? You already know how this goes. It's been a while since Liga Mine showed up. And even though they say they're close to an agreement, suddenly it doesn't seem like it's going to happen. Now let's listen to what's been happening or see some of the images of what I've been observing. But first, this is already the aircraft carrier. This was the last image that was captured where you can see the aircraft carrier. Is it Gerald Ford already entering the Mediterranean? Yes. So what does this mean? Well, the aircraft carrier is already about 40 hours away, less than 2 days for the aircraft carrier to be in a position to attack. Iran, yes. So that's the time Iran has to make the final decision, because once it gets there, from that point on, there will be 2 United States aircraft carriers that could operate. Let's see what happens, but for now, this is drawing attention today. Obviously, like the state. By the way, thank you very much. Good day, good morning, good afternoon. Today, depending on the time you're watching us, the following is being observed. Let me show you this video that has been circulating of the tests from the military exercises that are being conducted. Iran, according to what the commander of the naval forces of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard says, assures that the Strait of Hormuz is under the total control of the Iranians. That's the message given by this person. Now, I don't know whether to agree with him or not. Honestly, I really doubt that they are in control, but they must have at least some control, because they're constantly trying to seize oil tankers. Seize those oil tankers that are isolated or have no other option, right? So based on what they say, let's return to the map. According to what they say, they would have control of the Strait of Hormuz, which would be this, the Strait of Hormuz, right? This is the Strait of Hormuz. So they would have control there. Supposedly, then they would have control of 20% of the oil that comes out of there, right? I mean, they could have control. Honestly, that's something I want to see if it actually happens, if there's a real move where they try to stop what goes through this Hormuz. How many days or hours would it take to see an international reaction? No, not just the United States. There would definitely be an international reaction. To begin with, all the affected countries, Kuwait, Qatar, United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, even Oman, right? Besides the United States, besides Europe, I would say, hold on a second, you can't stop 20% of the oil, right? And probably even China. Reaction. China also already has military ships in the area, so everyone says, well, those are ships that are maybe there just in case to defend Iran, but others as well. We think, I mean, what if? What if it's simply so that nothing happens to the oil that's going to China, right? While it's one thing or another, what is clear is that even though things are going very badly, they also say they're not as bad as they seem. We'll talk about that in a moment, but first there's a message I find very interesting about this topic that I'd like to share with you, that I'd like you to see. Because Lindsey Graham, well, he's a congressman who he's very close, not only to the operations that the United States is carrying out in this whole area, but also Lindsey Graham, he has become a bit of a voice from the Republicans, but a voice, I mean, both Republicans and Democrats. There are 2 or 3 senators and congressmen, also from the House of Representatives, who have gotten very involved in international issues, right? I mean, in a way, that's also interesting because then Donald Trump, let's put him here. There he is. This is the image. Let's see. Let's listen to him. And right now, we'll talk about what this Graham has said. Yes?
Yes, 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 yes. I think the regime will collapse with sustained pressure. It's so weak. You know, they fly F-14 SA lots happened since Top Gun 1, so the Air Force has a great movie, but it was made in the 80s. So I don't like their chances in the sky. They have a lot of ballistic missiles. They could hurt us. They could do damage to Israel. But every day that goes by in the war, they get less capable. We get more. Because we have such a dominant advantage, there is risk associated with taking the regime down militarily.
Part of what Lindsey Graham has is that he is the senator of South Carolina. He is a senator who, well, he perceives himself, let's say, as a conservative senator, right? And that, well, that's within everything that he usually shows. He has been one of the senators, well, maybe more critical at some points. And I don't know. I don't know. About Adelaide of my lives. How about that? That there are risks. Of course, there are risks. But what he says is to do it. I mean, not to go against that regime. In the long run, it's going to be worse. I mean, there are more risks in doing nothing than in taking action. At least that's the view that Lindsey Graham himself has. Well, he's a politician with many years of experience, right? How many years? 70 years. Yes, 70 years. He represents South Carolina. And well, he's a very media savvy figure who gets very involved in international issues. And well, here are some of his reactions. Let's move on to other interesting points about what's happening in the world. Notice that images are starting to appear of multiple protests taking place over there in Iran. Some of them are blurred so you can't see the faces, and some are taken from farther away so, well, they can't be seen, right? They call themselves lions and lionesses, right? Because of the symbol of the flag, let's say what they call the flag, well, from the chat era, right? But anyway, the point is that they call themselves that, at least in many of the posts. That's how they present themselves in the crowd. They've been chanting there. If any of us loses their life, 1,000 of us will be behind them, they say in this message. Here as well, you can see, look, you can see that the Iranian regime is acting like the collectives in Venezuela. Yes, a lot of people armed with handguns, long guns, going around the cities. That's how they're moving. And it's a way, let's say, to psychologically repress the population, right? Those are other things that have been observed in the last few hours, in the last few days. Another image that also draws attention is the same one. The same Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi, who says the following. Let's first listen to a bit of that audio.
To listen to a bit of what Abbas Araghchi is saying.
Minister of Foreign Affairs? Well, the minister has been in talks in Geneva, right? This at the embassy, I understand from Oman. It doesn't seem like it was going to be the ambassador's residence. But anyway, the point is he says that they agreed on the guiding principles to start drafting the text of a possible agreement. A lot of progress has been made, he says. The way forward is clearer. The drafting will be arduous, but the path will now begin. The delegation will now return to their countries. The United States has already returned. Iran has already returned to their countries. And well, they are going to hold consultations with Trump, in the case of the United States. And well, with the Supreme Leader and with Masoud Pezeshkian, also with the President of Iran, right? So is that what has been done right now regarding this matter? So giving a bit of hope that maybe there could be some kind of agreement, right? That would be interesting, obviously, but right now anything is possible, right? Obviously. So let's move on to other important matters. Notice that something is also happening over there in the Middle East, but towards Israel. Yes, let's see what's going on. According to what the Israel Defense Forces is reporting, these are some of the images that are starting to circulate. According to what the Israel Defense Forces are reporting, they reportedly demolished the house of a person named Silad al-Aristila. According to what is being said, this person is considered a terrorist. They were looking for him and, well, they reportedly destroyed his house. That's what they demolished, according to them. That's not what has been reported by the Israeli Defense Forces. Well, it's also part of what's happening in the world. Let's move on to several interesting topics about what's happening. There are a series of comments coming from the Revolutionary Guard in which they confirm that they have been temporarily blocking key areas of the Strait of Hormuz. This is highly volatile, the fact that they are doing it this way. Especially considering that if this is the case, then there is practically no negotiation. They go straight to conflict, thinking that most of the world's interest in the area lies there. I mean, there is an interest, obviously, because in the end it's all about energy. And if there's no peace in the Strait of Hormuz, well, it's either that or it's war. Basically, I know that in theory, if the Strait of Hormuz, as they say, has been temporarily blocked, we could see reactions in oil. For now, I've been following the price of oil and it's pretty normal. No, there's no unusual movement. This is relatively related. Stable, let's say no. The price is at $66.85, so it's very good. I mean, no, it hasn't skyrocketed, nor has it dropped. Everything is calm. The exercise was called Smart Control of the Strait of Hormuz, according to Iranian media reports. They aimed to showcase offensive and defensive capabilities, as well as electronic warfare. And that's when the comment comes out, the one about them having total control of the Strait of Hormuz. The conclusion states it happened as Iran and the United States hold talks. Naval Commander Al-Irasei Tangrizi stated that the total closure of the Strait depends on the Iranian political leadership. He assured that whenever they need or want to, they can close the entire Strait of Hormuz. During the exercises, missiles were launched from both sea and land. Additionally, reconnaissance and attack drones operated despite electronic interference. In other words, they created electronic interference themselves to show that their drones keep working without any problems. Ali Khamenei himself, while doing this, delivered the message I showed you at the beginning, where he says that they could sink, or to make it clear that they have the weapon to be able to sink an aircraft carrier. That would be, well, sinking something like that would mean total war. I mean, there would be no turning back, right? At the same time, the director of the International Atomic Energy Agency, Rafael Gross, warned that Iran has enough enriched uranium to potentially build between 10 and 12 nuclear weapons. At the moment when he asked the question at this meeting they had at the International Atomic Energy Agency, I mean Rafael Gross and Abbas Saragashi himself, the Iranian foreign minister in Geneva, he asked him about where the 440 kilograms of enriched uranium are. In fact, Rollo threw out comments in all directions, but he didn't say exactly where they are. I don't know if they don't know or what happened, but he didn't say anything. Basically, no. They acknowledge it. According to this comment from Tehran, the supreme leader, the United States says it will never manage to overthrow the Islamic Republic, but they acknowledge that there are risks. The statement comes during days of maximum tension and has taken on a defiant tone. He stated that although the aircraft carrier is dangerous, the weapon that sends it to the bottom of the sea will be even more dangerous. That is the comment. Didn't they call it absurd that Washington wants to negotiate nuclear energy while imposing as a precondition that Iran gives it up, didn't they? The regime acknowledges 3,117 people who have lost their lives due to these protests, although the current verified estimate, more or less by name and surname from the organizations, is about the same. These human rights organizations in Iran claim to have 36,500 names of the deceased. They say the real number is much higher, around 50,000, but they have been able to confirm 36,500 names of people who have died. The regime only acknowledges 3,000. What happened there was incredible, wasn't it? Amnesty International reported that militarized repression, mass arrests, and forced disappearances are constant and have not stopped. They have not stopped up to this point. So, well, that's also tremendous what people are experiencing in that part of the world. Let me just take a short pause. How have you been? Greetings. Thank you so much to the community that's watching us. Greetings, Rodrigo. How have you been, Gabriel? How's it going? How have you been? Thank you very much for the comments. Griselda, how are you? Good afternoon, Maria Elena. Very good, Miguel. How are you? Good morning. Let's move on then to other matters, to other important topics as well. Look at what's happening with this person. He is an American, an advisor from the United States, and an American who is in Venezuela. The Venezuelan regime reportedly detained him without giving an explanation as to why they arrested the American oil advisor Evan Romero in Maracaibo. Let's get into the details of this situation. To our friends over there in Venezuela, a big greeting. What happened? How has this matter been? There's been a lot of attention and back and forth about this person. First of all, it's been making the rounds in the last few hours that they had detained the United States oil advisor who, according to reports, was said to be taking a trip to Caracas. The arrest of the consultant, who is 86 years old and, by the way, a naturalized United States citizen, has shaken the Venezuelan energy and political scene at a crucial moment. Romero was detained when he tried to board a flight to Caracas. According to the testimony The order appeared on the computer when it was registered that there was an arrest warrant for this person. So far, no official charges have been filed. There is no judicial notification. Where was he transferred from? Because of his age and health, he is being observed at a private medical center, according to reports. But this isn't clear, is it? The arrest happened, well, this is a month and 15 days after the arrest of Maduro, but also after the visit of the United States Secretary of Energy to Venezuela. About these supposed agreements between Delcio Rodriguez and Donald Trump. Romero was the founder of Intevep and also the former executive president of Petróleos de Venezuela, Sociedad Anónima. In addition, he was a former minister of energy and mines during the oil opening, and he is a key figure in the oil sector. For a while now, he has held scheduled meetings with companies such as Repsol, Rylance Industry, ExxonMobil, Conoco, or Philips, among others. He is part of a group of approximately 400 former technicians and executives from Petróleos de Venezuela, SA, who are working on proposals to rebuild the Venezuelan energy sector. He is an American, but he has also held positions within Venezuela. He is someone who knows perfectly how Petróleos de Venezuela, SA works and has all the experience. Any reason? It seems it's inconvenient for the regime since they've detained him. Let's see what reactions come from the United States and what reactions also come from Delcio Rodriguez herself to try to justify this detention. But be careful because this issue could obviously escalate. In the meantime, let me tell you about another curious matter happening in Latin America. The Anti-Defamation League, that's what they call it, has reported that Hispante B is a media outlet that has been promoting anti-Semitism and apologizing for terrorism. According to a report presented in the United States, the Anti-Defamation League submitted a 23-page report making these allegations. The Iranian state channel called Hispante B, it's a channel controlled by Iran, broadcasting content that is said to be anti-Semitic and spreading pro-terrorist messages in Latin America. The document states that this outlet, controlled by the broadcaster of the Islamic Republic of Iran, operates as an international platform for the Iranian regime to ideologically influence Latin American countries. According to the reports, this group builds an information ecosystem that normalizes extremist positions and presents narratives that clearly go against. Well, even countries on this side that are also against Israel, that are against the United States, and that promote the idea that certain terrorist movements are justified. According to this outlet, among the highlighted content is a series of programs. Like this supposed idea of trying to influence Latin America through certain media outlets. Other spaces where they exert influence, portraying or presenting groups like Hezbollah and Hamas, or even the terrorist group the Houthis, as resistance forces. They portray them as if they were heroes, right? That kind of thing. Well, it's obviously a claim that draws attention today, right? Another issue that is also more interesting, I don't think so. Before we move on to other topics, that's what's coming up regarding J.C. Jackson, a person who I think is one of the most iconic when it comes to activism over there in the United States. I don't know if you remember him, but he's obviously an important figure. The historic civil rights leader in the United States and two-time Democratic presidential candidate passed away at the age of 84 after more than 5 decades. Marking many aspects of United States politics, he was also a reverend. Wasn't he the reverend? C. Jackson passed away at 84 years old, and so he leaves a legacy. Above all, a lot of struggle for civil rights, for economic justice, and for African American political representation. No, that too? Well, that's also part of what his work was about. He was very close to Martin Luther King at the time, right? And well, a person who is no longer there in the United States, a topic that also caught people's attention today. Notice that in other matters, also important ones, at least 24 people lost their lives in an attack in Pakistan. Let's go to this part of the world where attacks are happening again. This time by the movement that's right next to Afghanistan, right? In this area of Pakistan. In this country, an attack has been reported where 24 people lost their lives. It's an attack specifically on that border. We're looking at the Afghan and Pakistani border, right, where there's been a lot of trouble lately. According to the reports, explosions and smoke started to be heard. And then, well, they confirmed that there were 11 soldiers there, a little girl, and 2 insurgents. After this attack, which was against a checkpoint in the border area, the attack happened in the Bajwar district in a province called Kaviar. Pakuskawa, which is one of the provinces with the most violence problems in that region of the world. The military command attributed responsibility for the attack to the Fidna group. The attackers tried to breach the security of the checkpoint. However, their plans to carry out the assault were thwarted. Well, the attacker manages to get into a spot and, well, sets off this explosion, causes this explosion. According to the official report, Pakistani troops killed 12 of the insurgents during the retaliatory operation, launching, well, this car bomb. No, well, that's how things are. I mean, that's the situation. Pakistan-Afghanistan hasn't stopped. It's a group that's close to the Taliban, which is also Taliban, but it's different from the one that governs in Afghanistan. And they are separatists who want a peace between Afghanistan and Pakistan. They've wanted a peace for themselves for a long time now. And lately they've been attacking in this way, even with alleged support from the Taliban who govern Afghanistan. It's an issue that could cause a clash between the countries, not just involving a rebel group, but could even bring the Taliban in Afghanistan into direct conflict with Pakistan. Pakistan is a country that has nuclear weapons, a country that has its own problems, but also has powerful weapons. No, let's move on to other important matters. Well, there's a warning issued by the Kremlin now directly. Basically, it's an ultimatum. What has been happening in recent months is that the United States seizes ghost ships. Ships that they say, look, this is a ghost ship. It's a ship that, well, we're going to keep the ship, we're going to keep the oil, whatever it is. And this kind of seizure has caused annoyance in the Kremlin. But since these are ships they don't acknowledge, they had stayed quiet or made comments, but those comments were rather subtle. Let's say this time what Vladimir Putin says, what Russia says, let's say, is that they don't want any more detentions. In other words, they don't want any more of these oil tankers to be seized, and if another Russian oil tanker is seized, they say they will retaliate and send the Russian naval fleet. Let's get into the details of what the Russians have said, but look at this area. This is the map, let's say, where these types of vessels are constantly being detained. Not oil tankers. Oil tankers that, without a flag or with fake flags, carry oil to different countries. They're not supposed to buy it because they have sanctions and supposedly can't buy it if they want to, right? But then they say, well, if you buy it, then I won't do business with you, or do Russians have the freedom to buy it? There's no problem in that sense. The thing is, well, then I won't do business with you, but now they take it a step further. And for the ships that are sanctioned, which are usually ships that have either a false flag or no longer have the proper documentation, well, it's not a ship that should be operating because they're very old ships. So they go after those ships and detain them. There have even been other countries like France. France has also detained and seized ships of that kind. Now, many times they don't send them back, they let them go free, but other times they don't. The message was delivered by Vladimir Putin's closest advisor, named Nikolai Patrushev, stating that Moscow is going to deploy Russian weapons, or the Russian Navy, rather the naval forces, in strategic areas if Europe and the United States continue intercepting tankers linked to Russia. For example, he mentioned it explicitly. Above all, it bothers him when British, French, and Baltic countries' ships, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Poland, etc. All the Baltic countries have been stopping their ships. From Moscow, these seizures are described as acts of piracy, raising the diplomatic and military tone. It's a network of old oil tankers with opaque ownership. We don't know who the owners are, and they operate to evade sanctions imposed after the 2022 Ukraine invasion. They use flags of convenience, questionable documentation, and turn-off tracking systems to disappear from radar. The European Union has banned 598 ships from entering its ports. The United States also maintains sanctions on 183 ships, and the French Navy recently intercepted a ship in the Mediterranean, also suspected of belonging to this network. Thank you. Since the beginning of the war, since the West has imposed 30,000 different sanctions to limit Russia's energy revenues. But despite that, they keep bypassing them through these ships. In the end, that's another war, a strategic war that's being carried out in that area. At the same time, negotiations are taking place in Geneva, also between Russia, the United States, and Ukraine. Notice that besides the negotiations, besides this ultimatum that's being issued, right now, a rather intense bombing is being reported. 400 drones have been entering Ukraine. Russia launched 400 drones in 12 different regions at the same time that there's a supposed attempt at a negotiation agreement. According to the report, Russia allegedly fired 29 missiles and 400 drones. At least that's what has been confirmed from the Ukrainian side, which is what they've counted so far out of the total KAH-101 cruise missiles, also Skinder-K missiles, Skinder-M, and an air-guided missile. Also, of the drones, 250 were Shahed-type Russian-made Inani, and then other types of drones. 13 different locations were also recorded, affected. There are also 3 energy workers who are believed to have lost their lives. In Odessa, tens of thousands of people were left without heating, water, or resources in the midst of freezing temperatures affecting that region of the world. That's how it is. Let's discuss other important matters. Glasses. Let's take a short break to talk about a topic that caught my attention. Suddenly, people discuss these things and others begin to believe them. People often don't do their research, but there are media outlets that deceive, like this one called the Spectator Index. I've been following it for a while because I like statistics, but just like I follow this one, I follow 15 or 20 other outlets that are all about statistics, but we still verify them all, obviously. And suddenly you start seeing trends. You start noticing how there are outlets that have a hidden agenda, right? This is one of them. Look at how it misleadingly says, let's see, how many homicides are there? Yes, per year out of every 100,000 people, how many people die from murder? And it puts Mexico all the way at the top, right? 21.28 per 100,000. Well, right off the bat, I'm telling you that information is false, isn't it? And then it puts Colombia at 27, Brazil 22, United States 7, Argentina 5, Chile 4, Canada 2. Yes, totally false. So the data is already wrong from the start, you say? Well, maybe strategically. This person took the data that suited them and said, let me take data from just 1 year. To say that Mexico is terrible, right? And that Colombia is terrible too, right? And that's what these kinds of media do all the time. I replied to him right away, and I wrote, obviously I wrote in English because his outlet is in English. I wrote, "You always want to make Mexico look bad, don't you?" And right from the start, to begin with, he skipped over all the other countries, assuming that the data was like that, just like he says. No, well, all the other countries that are in worse situations, those countries, well, he didn't want to mention them. Why? Well, to leave Mexico at the top of the list, right? At the top, there's Ecuador, South Africa, Haiti, Trinidad, a bunch of countries, right? But I told him, well, let's look at the most current data, right? If we look at the most current data, the number of deaths per 100,000 people, the hardest data is 17, not 28. But if besides that, we look at the data from cities like Mexico City, like Monterrey, for example, well, the numbers are on a whole different level. I mean, for example, here in Monterrey or in Mexico City, which are more or less the same, yes, more or less, the number of deaths is between 9 and 12 per 100,000 inhabitants due to murder. I mean, that level is seen in places like Panama, Uruguay, countries like that, right? That's why when people from Uruguay ask me, "Hey, Mexico, how do you manage? How do you manage?" I say, "Manage what? I just live my normal life. We go to the park, we walk the dog at night. I mean, it's not like you're always out there afraid. I mean, there are, like in all cities, areas or neighborhoods that can be dangerous, just like anywhere else in the world. But it's a constant bombardment from the media in different parts of the world that tends to do that. Aren't there others? What do the regular statistics show? Of course, there's a problem. Some areas have a huge issue. And that really can't be denied, right? Hey, if you show me the statistics from Michoacan or Sinaloa, there are certain very specific states that have a very serious problem. Unfortunately, that's how it is. You say, of course, we have to point that out, right? Absolutely. But when they want to make it seem like the whole country is like that, do you say that? Despite the numbers, they're wrong, not even in the worst case scenario. If you go to 2023, which was a tough time, 23, that's where the issue was coming from, right? Right now, there are 17 deaths by murder for every 100,000. Yes, it's a constant, right? We also have to pay attention to that issue, and well, at least from here, we'll try to. And then I saw comments from Brazil too. I went to check the data from Brazil, and it was also bad from Brazil, right? This one? And because there were Brazilians too. Wait, where are you getting that data? Here is all this data. But, well, those kinds of media never respond, right? Obviously, either they are involved, or they're in charge, or they have a very clear agenda to give the impression that this country, that's why, if they come here with me, how is it? It's already bad. Aren't men falling? No. Well, that's how things are. That's the situation. And well, we shouldn't fall for that kind of misinformation. Now let's move on to other matters, to other interesting topics as well. Thank you. Notice that a very interesting investigation took place over there in Uruguay, right? Yes, and well, surely some of you have been following this. Let's not go further south. There it is, right? Yes. It's an investigation in which a commission studied what happens with certain unidentified flying object sightings that have been appearing in that region of the world. According to the Uruguayan Air Force, they confirmed that the lights in several departments, the objects that have been reported, were not UFOs, but rather satellites from the Starlink system. After 25 citizen reports, I saw the images. Forgive me for having to contradict the Uruguayan Air Force. Either they want to deceive people, or maybe, well, we didn't see the same videos, right? But no Starlink satellite stops. None of them. I mean, satellites don't go and just stop there. They stay there and keep moving forward, either one way or the other. Starlink satellites move in a line and advance at an impressive speed without stopping. They claim those are Starlink satellites, but maybe they haven't seen the right videos. In recent days, luminous phenomena have been appearing in dozens of videos, and I don't doubt that some of them are perfectly Starlink, but that doesn't explain all the videos. And I mean, you can search on Twitter or any social network for luminous objects or UFOs or lights in the sky in Uruguay, and you take a look, see the type of objects that appear, decide if you think it's Starlink or not, and then look up what Starlink videos look like. You and I have seen them here. They're not always like a line of objects flying one after another. They go at the same speed. They don't move. They're exactly at the same distance. They don't make trails or zigzags or anything like that, and they definitely don't stop. I'm surprised that the Uruguayan Air Force gets involved in these kinds of things. Honestly, I'm not. And look, the report itself says it. The videos show irregular movements. The lights seem to disappear, regroup, and regroup again. Starlink doesn't do that. Excuse me, but that's it? I mean, I think people have never let themselves be fooled. There might be some who have, but people have never let themselves be fooled. I mean, people know when they're being told things that aren't true. But nowadays, even more so, people know a lot more. They know so much more. In other times, they had more references. So for someone to say that seems wrong to me, you know? The reports have been coming in from January 13th to February 15th. Around 25 formal complaints about flying night lights have been added. The departments with the most witness activity were Montevideo, Canelones, Maldonado, Rocha, San Jose, Rivera, Colonia, La Valleja, and Cerro The investigation was carried out by the Commission for Receiving and Investigating Reports of Unidentified Flying Objects, the Cronodovini, an agency under the Uruguayan Air Force. This commission was created in 1979 to analyze reports of these aerial phenomena and determine how, according to the receiving commission, they were limited. Employees of the CURSM. The laboratory develops employment, large areas, polytechnic, Scottish machines promoted in favor. From where? I mean, hopefully they correct it, because I mean, if this research was going to be done this way, I think it would be a mistake. At least the All Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, the All Domain Anomaly Resolution Office of the United States Air Force. At least, well, they have been a bit more open to saying that there are aerial phenomena. Simply anomalous ones that don't have an explanation, even though maybe they know what the explanation is, they prefer to say there is no explanation, period. When they don't want to explain it, at least say it's an anomaly. But you don't want to deceive by saying, it's just that they are, I insist. It could be that some of them, because the ones I've been able to see, since I haven't seen all 25 because they haven't published them. All of the ones I've been able to see from the reports that have come out and have been made public on social media, no. Well, and the description itself that's written there doesn't match. I mean, the description itself, the one about objects that regroup, that move from one side to the other, etc. So that doesn't match with the Starlink satellites. Well, yes, these kinds of details really catch my attention. You know, at this point, it's very curious to me that they want to do that. I know they must be very professional and all that. Maybe they're just following orders or whatever, but what's the point? I mean, if they're not going to inform, then how should it be done, right? Today, we don't know what they are. Or maybe you think they're possibly drones. I can buy that. I can say, well, maybe they can't be drones because they stop, they hover, they move. But anyway, that's how things are. Let's move on to other topics, which are also interesting. On other matters, there's an oil tanker that arrived in Cuba. Look, an oil tanker that arrives in Cuba. The ship Nikos 4 docked in Matanzas in the middle of the energy crisis. Well, this is happening while some countries The United States, Mexico, Russia, China say that, well, some have already sent it. Others say they're going to send humanitarian aid. For now, it's not clear who owns this ship, Nikos, or where it came from. No. In the middle of an energy blockade, this move is being made. It's not very clear exactly where it comes from, but well, as far as we know, the oil tanker would be flying the flag of St. Vincent, right? The identification code is International Maritime Organization 9,103,843. Yes, that's it. I think that's it. It's 9,103,843. Yes, that's supposedly under the flag of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. It has a capacity of 300,000 barrels, and the type of fuel it carries is unknown. It's not specified. I mean, is it crude oil for refining? Is it already gasoline? I mean, what is it? It's not clear. Yes. So, well, I don't know if they missed it. If they had permission, how is it possible that it got in? That's interesting, isn't it? That will probably be good for him, I think. To the fuel, if it is fuel, do we know exactly what type of energy source it is? No. That ship, Nicholas IV, doesn't appear as sanctioned by the United States, but it does have an active monitoring status. I mean, it's like it's under observation, but for now it doesn't have a sanction. So it's not known. I mean, it's not clear if it entered with permission, if it entered just like that, or if it just slipped by them. It's not very clear how it happened. I mean, well, there are doubts about it, but the point is that the ship is already in Cuba, according to what's being reported. Let's discuss other topics and see what's happened. There's a report showing an attack. It's an attack that happened in Leningrad. Let's go to the map. No, let's not go to the map. Let's locate ourselves in Leningrad. This situation is very interesting. This is over there near St. Petersburg, right? Basically there, that's Leningrad, isn't it? There was an attack there. An explosion that, well, has really surprised everyone because it's an explosion that directly affects the military. 3 soldiers are said to have lost their lives as a result. Well, there are several things being talked about. There is talk of an explosion, along with the partial collapse of a training center at the Leningrad military district in Sertolobo, Russia. The powerful explosion is said to have happened today, February 17th, at the military facility in the city of Sertolobo. Let's see, let's look specifically at where this place is. Sertolobo, I hadn't heard of it before. This one, but I understand it's in Leningrad. Yes, look, it's in Leningrad, but it's specifically in this area. Let's see, I don't know if you managed to see it. It's in this area. Let's zoom out a little to take a look. There it is. It's right in this area, very close. Well, right there, near St. Petersburg, but there's St. Petersburg, and it's specifically in this little area, Sertolobo. There it is. That's where the explosion happens. Part of the building collapses. The detonation happened today at 2:20 local time inside an office of the military command. According to reports released by the Russian media outlet called Astra, as a result of the explosion, part of the second and third floors of the building collapsed, leaving debris scattered around the structure. According to the same outlet, Astra, they show severe structural damage in upper floors that could collapse. There could be additional collapses in the coming days, if nothing is done, right? Regional authorities confirmed 3 deaths. Initial reports mentioned 2 victims, but this was later updated to 3. The governor of the Leningrad region, Alexander Drozdenko, reported that emergency services were immediately mobilized. And also the military are already there. They are clearing and organizing everything related to the debris. Russian Ministry of Emergency Situations teams worked at the site. Sources in the area say that the 56th Training Center of the Guards of the Leningrad Military District will be investigating this. The center had previously been mentioned by the Tal Leningrad Rubes Foundations as the place designated to prepare troops for deployment in the war against Ukraine. So could it be related to the war against? Obviously, that's the first thing that comes to everyone's mind. Not that this was an attack, but just imagine. If they had the ability to infiltrate all the way into a military facility and detonate something from there, well, yes, that would be really serious, right? So, either it was an accident, or it was something internal, someone from the inside, or an attack from Ukraine at levels that, well, haven't been seen before. That's something that stands out today. Also, take a look at what happened over in Egypt. Well, there are two things that are kind of funny. Look, this person, let's see if we can see him on the screen. Hold on a second, let's make the image smaller. But well, a man goes into a place, a pharmacy, and asks for a certain medicine, right? He says, "Hey, do you have this medicine?" And they say no. So he comes closer and just imagine he does a somersault. Look, let me go back this part. He does the somersault and walks away like a boss. Just like that. Without looking anywhere. He doesn't do the somersault to see, wait, let me go back again. It's really funny. Just like that, he says, no, he's not there. He does the somersault and goodbye. He doesn't even say anything. Or maybe he does. Goodbye? No. No. Well, obviously the guys, the ones working at the pharmacy, let's see if we can see it later. It made them laugh a lot. They were laughing. I don't know about the man. They're there. Who knows what the man was thinking or what medicine he was looking for. But at least he didn't forget. No, it's already gone around the world. To begin with, the image from the security camera. Well, it's really curious, isn't it? The man, an older man who looks pretty old, pulled off a stunt there. Well, let's move on to other interesting topics. We have another image. Well, this one is being reported. Let's see if we can talk about it right now. But another attack is being reported, not this one. An attack from another vessel. This image has been circulating, where you can see the moment when the smoke appears. And all of this from the attack that happened on this boat. Supposedly there have been attacks by the United States in the Pacific and the Caribbean at the same time. So it wouldn't be just one attack, but rather several attacks that have been reported. The number of casualties, look, here it is already. This is the latest report. The United States Armed Forces attacked 3 vessels. This happened in the Eastern Pacific and the Caribbean. This happened early this morning. Wait, hold on. No. It was from yesterday to today. I mean, early morning. Oh, it's not clear. Let's see. Yes, it was early morning. No, actually, it was early Monday morning. That is, from Sunday to Monday. 3 vessels in the Pacific and the Caribbean. According to the latest information, 11 people are believed to have lost their lives in just those 3 attacks, he says. Intelligence confirms the vessels traveled known drug trafficking routes and were involved in related operations. The Southern Command, in a statement, confirmed that they put the number at 11. 11 male narco-terrorists are believed to have lost their lives during these actions. 4 in the first vessel in the Eastern Pacific, 4 in the second vessel also in the Eastern Pacific, and 3 in the third vessel in the Caribbean. No military forces, it says, were injured, according to information from the United States. Well, that's also something that draws attention today. Isn't this also part of all these struggles that are dominating here? That's what I was telling you. Let's see if we can show it. The building is the building. It's the building that fell, that collapsed. In the explosion inside a warehouse over there in Leningrad. And the building of the military commander of the Leningrad region exploded. 2 high-ranking military officers are dead. There's a third one, since he was with them, and 4 more are also said to have been injured. Didn't several floors collapse? I mean, what happened in this region of Russia is really serious, isn't it? That's good. Well, it's also part of what's happening right now. And well, let's move on to other matters, to other images. We also have the moment. Let's show it here. This is the moment when the two delegations, there it is. This is the moment when the two delegations leave Geneva. They're leaving Geneva, let's say. And well, let's get a little closer. It's in this area. If you can see, here it is. It's on this side. There it is. They're leaving Geneva, and there go the delegations. Apparently, there were people protesting there. They're shouting something at them. I can't quite hear. It's in another language, but they're shouting things as they go by. I don't know if it's the Iranian delegation or the American delegation, but they're at the ambassador's residence, or Mani, or Oman, right? From there, both delegations are coming out from one side and the other. That's where the movement is. It's also an issue, well, it's part of what happens day to day. Let's discuss other important topics. Notice that there's another attack, this time once again on a refinery. According to the report, Ukrainian forces allegedly struck troop concentrations in Sorivska, in Lubimiska, and there's also a report of an attack on a refinery. According to what Ukraine reports, they struck one of the refineries that would be key for Vladimir Putin or for Russia. At night, a refinery was destroyed, or rather attacked. A refinery was destroyed. It was attacked. According to the report, Ukrainian forces have struck concentrations. An attack is reported. A refinery. They attacked the Cisco refinery, which is located in the Russian region of Krasnodar, according to what is being reported. A refinery was destroyed. It was attacked. According to the report, Ukrainian forces have struck concentrations of troops in and reports an attack on a refinery. According to the report, Ukrainian forces have struck concentrations of and reports an attack on a refinery. There is an expose, there is a very big revelation about this ranch. There is a ranch, it has a lot of properties. This was owned by Jeffrey Epstein. And among everything that is coming up in this case, well, there is one that is maybe the most. According to the report, the Ukrainian concentrations and reports an attack on a refinery. According to the report, they hit concentrations in an attack on a refinery is reported. According to the report, Ukrainian forces have hit concentrations. According to Ukrainian forces, refinery. to say that's it, let's talk about something else, those topics. No, they're not to be discussed. Those kinds of details draw attention if they barely come out of the information, according to Ukrainian forces. Concentrations. And a refinery is reported, according to what Ukrainian forces report. Struck troop concentration Sorivska. An attack on a refinery is reported. According to what the Ukrainians report, struck troop concentrations. A refinery is reported. This little mansion, no, let's see if we can put it over there. There it is. This is the mansion, right? Or part of it, let's say, whatever it is. According to the Ukrainians, a refinery attack is reported. According to the Ukrainian forces, troops in Sorivska were also hit, and an attack on a refinery is reported. And all sorts of things. Amazing. Really amazing. The Democratic State Representative, Andrea Romero, described the investigation as critical to uncovering the truth and giving space to the survivor. According to reports from Ukrainian forces, concentrations of and an attack on a refinery has been reported, according to the report. The Ukrainians' concentrations of troops and a refinery has been reported. Well, Donald Trump says that they are already talking about the issue of weapons that the United States sells to Taiwan with China. According to the report, Ukrainian forces have struck troop concentrations and a refinery attack has been reported, according to the report. Ukrainian forces have struck troop concentrations and an attack has been reported. According to the report, Ukrainian forces have struck troop concentrations and an attack on a refinery has been reported. In December, a record package of $11 billion in weapons for Taiwan was approved, according to the report. Ukrainian forces, troop concentrations, an attack on a refinery has been reported. According to the Ukrainians, they have struck an attack on a refinery has been reported. Look at what's happening in these protests, at what we're in right now. They have continued to post videos live of what's happening specifically in one area. According to the report, Ukrainian forces have struck concentrations of and an attack on a refinery has been reported. They briefly see people clearly but quickly blur them out, afraid they might be identified, or those who are far away if they are visible. According to the report, Ukrainian forces have struck troops An attack on a refinery has been reported. According to the report, Ukrainian forces have struck concentrations. According to the report, Ukrainian forces have reported an attack. According to the report by Ukrainian forces, struck and it is reported blurred refinery, but at that point people are running, well, not because gunshots start to be heard in the background, and inside these posts they ask Trump. According to Ukrainian reports, troop concentrations were hit and reports an attack on a refinery. According to Ukrainian forces, they have hit concentrations of troops in and nor has it fallen below 59. Trump said at the time that he wanted oil at 50. Well, that's not possible. Right now it's at 67 according to the forces. Hit concentrations troops in and a refinery is reported. It was this floor that if it breaks, well, the drop could still continue. According to the report, Ukrainian forces hit a refinery is reported. According to the report, concentrations troops refinery, according to the report by Ukrainian forces, concentrations and one is reported. According to the report by the Ukrainians, concentrations have been hit in a refinery is reported. According to the report by the Ukrainian forces, concentrations have been hit And a refinery is reported. According to the report, the Ukrainian forces have hit concentrations and a refinery is reported. That was for a moment, and then all 21 were fired. According to the report, Ukrainian forces have struck concentrations and a refinery has been reported. According to the report by Ukrainian forces, troop concentrations in and it is reported, according to the report by Ukrainian forces, concentrations of in and reports refinery. According to the report, Ukrainians have struck concentrations, troops, refinery. According to the report, Ukrainian forces have struck. According to the report, Ukrainian forces have struck concentrations of troops. Reports a refinery. According to the report, the Ukrainians struck concentrations of troops in Surivska. And also towards a refinery. I mean, if we go to the highest point, it would be 1, according to the report. Ukrainian forces have struck concentrations of troops in reports. Refinery. According to Ukrainian forces, they have struck. A refinery is reported. But the expectation maybe was too high in the short term, and apparently it's not that high in the short term. Well, let's go to the comments. According to the report, Ukrainian forces have struck concentrations, troops. Refinery as I am. According to the report, Ukrainian forces concentrations. And refinery. I mean, just imagine, right? So if they want to throw one of those, I mean, he knows very well According to the report, the Ukrainians are concentrating troops in Sorivska, and also there's a refinery. People like that applauding, like, do they really, really believe that kind of thing? Well, apparently, yes. Well, they believe those kinds of details and get excited. They get excited because they applaud the Lord. According to Ukrainian forces, they have struck concentrations of troops. And a refinery has been reported. According to Ukrainian reports, concentrations refinery. It says to, like, let's see, there it is. Look, that's it, right? 45. Sorry, I made a mistake. 45%, 45%, 45. According to the report by the Ukrainians, they hit concentrations of and a refinery. And it's more convenient to buy, says Shonix, because maybe it's a good opportunity. It could be, huh? Shonix could be one of those. He says, greetings, how are you? According to the report, the Ukrainian forces have troops. And a report says, according to the report, the Ukrainian forces have troop concentrations. A strike has been reported. Refinery. Julio, how have you been? Thank you very much. Same to you, Julio. Hope you're doing well. Blanca Barcelo, how have you been? According to Ukrainian forces, concentrations of Surivska towards a refinery. But it was like they said, nobody's going to attack us until the attacks actually start. Exactly. Greetings, Boston. Very good, he says. He was looking for decaf coffee and a sedative. But no, since, according to the report, the Ukrainian forces struck concentrations at the refinery. According to the report, the Ukrainians struck concentrations of troops. A refinery is reported, according to the Ukrainian forces, concentrations and an attack on the refinery is reported. According to the report, the Ukrainians have struck concentrations of troops in and an attack is reported. Refinery, according to the Ukrainian forces, they have struck concentrations of troops. It is reported refinery. Corrupt Institutional Revolutionary Party governors were being arrested. They were even going to jail, according to the Ukrainian report. Concentrations and an attack on the refinery and governor. Very specifically. I know you already know which ones are clearly colluding and they don't arrest them and don't do anything. How is that possible? So, They have to do their job, and they're not doing it. That the current government has improved a lot on the issue of security, that's undeniable. Even many from the opposition have acknowledged it. According to the report, the Ukrainian forces have struck gatherings an attack on a refinery has been reported. A very different coordination from what was seen in the previous 6-year term. A coordination that has resulted in states like Coahuila and states like Nuevo León having pretty good, pretty decent security. According to the report, the Ukrainian forces have refinery. And the comment says the following. Let's see, there it is. It says it's convenient for us. When the Iran war happened, we went out to buy non-perishable food. Precious metals will surely go up. According to what the Ukrainian forces report. If I want to invest, or I can invest, I would say first invest in yourself. According to the report, Ukrainian forces have struck troop concentrations and reports a refinery. According to the report, Ukrainian forces have struck concentrations of and reports a refinery. According to the report, the forces have struck a refinery. As people know, because that's what brings you prosperity in the end, right? How many languages do I know how to speak? What instruments do I play, or what tools? Chicken. According to reports, Ukrainian forces struck concentrations, and according to reports, Ukrainian forces struck Surivska troops and reported an attack. Refinery. According to reports, Ukrainian forces troop concentrations and a refinery is reported. I enjoy it a lot, and well, as a hobby, but maybe that's what saves you. Knowing carpentry or knowing something else, not music, I don't know, whatever each person likes. My son sent me a video. According to the report, the Ukrainian forces have a refinery. According to the Ukrainian report, concentrations of and a refinery attack is reported. According to the Ukrainian forces, they have struck concentrations so it's more like doing, and I really liked the video because according to the report, Ukrainian forces struck concentrations of troops in And a refinery, according to Ukrainian forces, struck concentrations of troops in and a refinery is reported. I would invest more in having more time to exercise to do more of this. I mean, I would invest more in that than in other things. Now, if I had a lot left over, which right now I don't, I would say, well, maybe in the long run, it would be good for me. According to the report, the Ukrainian concentrations of in, and if you want, I can send you the video. I find this comment very interesting. Let's see, I have it here. I'm halfway through it. It's really good. It's called, according to the report, the Ukrainian forces refinery, according to the report by the Ukrainian forces, concentrations and a refinery is also reported. I'm going to save you 18 years, right? He says, if I'm 33, I'm a 3D artist. He says, spend 18 minutes with me and I'll save you 18 years. It's not good, but I showed you the video in case someone was interested. According to Ukrainian forces, troop concentrations have been hit and an attack on a refinery has been reported. A very unique vision, and now they're in all the modern art museums and things like that. The same in music. I mean, well, that's my creative area, which I've been experimenting with for a while now. According to Ukrainian reports, and a refinery is reported. No, I'm writing a little bit also about electronic music, but I'm mostly writing lyrics and I enjoy it. Honestly, it's a relief for me. According to the Ukrainian forces report, troop concentrations in and a refinery is reported. And if I like it? At that point, he surely published it under a pseudonym. I'm not going to put PP live, you know, but we'll see. We'll see what we do about that, he says. I have that gift and a general idea. I already have the concept complete, and well, later I'll tell you what it's based on, what the concept I want to be is, he says. Yeah, do you know what it is? According to the report, the refinery forces. According to the report. The Ukrainian forces, concentrations of troops attacking the refinery. This is Pepe Live.
The truth is intense, harsh, the unusual is real, pure. Here we analyze it, global focus. Don't miss out. Tune in to the Pepe Live channel, controlling the signal. Pepe and Astrid telling it like it is. Raw journalism. Here, respect is given. Turn on the alert, don't lose track until next time. Yes, sir, we're taking attendance. Subscribe.